The waves thunder in darkness, then 6 months at sea, no ports, no rescue, no land to break the horizon, just a wooden coffin drifting in the endless blue. Cannons did not frighten these men, storms could not break them, but hunger was the enemy no blade could kill. Imagine it, the sea is calm, but your stomach is a roaring beast. Every creak of timber, every whistle of wind is drowned beneath the growl inside you. Your captain's orders fade, your mate's laughter dies. The only voice left is hunger whispering in your gut like a curse. That's where true terror began, the pirates' rations. A cruel joke the sea played on desperate men. Hardtack, a biscuit so tough it could shatter teeth, so infested with worms it seemed alive. Men tapped it on the deck like a stone before eating. Some soaked it in seawater, some in rum. Others just closed their eyes and swallowed the worms with it. Better than starving, they muttered, mouths dry, teeth rotting, hearts sinking. Salted meat, it started pink, then green, then black. Rats scraped the mold away with daggers, boiled the rest and prayed it wouldn't kill them before dawn. Because on a pirate ship, food was never food. It was a gamble with death. Water was no safer. Stored in wooden barrels, it soared fast, turning green, crawling with life. Men gagged at the stench, but they drank anyway. Some captains joked, protein lads, free of charge. The laughter was hollow, because they knew tomorrow's barrel would be worse. Thirst burned fiercer than hunger. One sailor wrote in his log, my tongue feels like leather, my veins like dry rope, I dream of rain, and when it came, all the frenzy. Pirates dropped everything, scrambling across decks, mouths open to the storm. They fought like animals for every drop. Even the sea itself was an enemy that teased them. Endless water everywhere, but not a single sip to save them. So men turned to the ocean for food. Lines dangled overboard, hooks glinting in the sun. Some days, they hauled in fish, fresh, silver, alive. Other days, nothing but silence broken by the creak of rope and the gnaw of hunger. Then came the jellyfish, slimy, stinging, unholy, boiled, cut, swallowed with rum. Pirates gagged, cursed, and forced it down. One desperate crew harpooned a whale, its death shuddered through the waves like thunder. But when the cheers died, horror set in. How do you store a mountain of meat, rotting fast under the burning sun? For days the ship stank like death, as men carved strips of flesh and ate until they vomited. And then came the sharks, dragged thrashing onto deck, teeth snapping, tails smashing wood. Some men cheered as if conquering a demon. Others stared in silence, knowing the irony. For every shark eaten, 10 more circled below, waiting for the first sailor too weak to stand. The ocean was no charity, it gave just enough to keep men alive long enough to suffer. But hunger was not the worst curse. Something darker gnawed at them unseen. Scurvy, the silent thief. Teeth fell loose, gums blackened, old wounds opened like fresh graves. Strong men collapsed with bones brittle as glass. They bled without reason, they cried without control. One pirate wrote, I feel my body rotting, yet I still breathe. Death watches me, but will not take me. More pirates died from this invisible plague than from cannon fire, blades, or storms combined. The cure, fruit, fresh impossible fruit, oranges, limes, pine needles brewed as bitter tea. Some ships raided villages not for gold, but for trees, hauling them onto decks like sacred relics. A lemon was worth more than a chest of silver. One slice could buy a man another month of life. Still, starvation warped the mind as much as the body. Some men whispered of eating leather boots, boiled to softness. Some swore seaweed was green bread. Others fermented seawater into a vile ocean wine, drinking madness in every cup. And on the darkest voyages, when no fish came, when no rain fell, when barrels turned to poison, eyes turned toward the weakest, cannibal tales drifted across the waves like curses. No captain wrote them down, but whispers survived. Ships adrift for weeks, men vanishing one by one. The taste of human flesh never admitted, but never denied. And through it all, the pirate code was tested. Food wasn't just survival, it was power. A rotten biscuit could spark a mutiny. A sip of water could crown a new captain. Some leaders declared, "Quo bellies." Every man fed the same, no matter rank. Others hoarded hiding scraps while their crews wasted to bone. And those men never lived long, because hunger is a tyrant, and pirates, no matter how loyal, would not follow a captain who ate while they starved. Lanterns flicker, thunder rumbles far away. So picture it, my friend, the endless blue. A crew of hollow-eyed men, their bodies broken, their faith cracking. One more day without food, one more night without rain. And you, a pirate, clinging to life on a sea that wants to claim you. What would you do to survive? What line would you cross? When hunger turns your brother into prey and your captain into prey. When the sea itself seems to whisper, eat, or be eaten. That's the story we sail into next. Her night at sea, lanterns sway, a low drumbeat of rain. Hunger changes men, it scrapes away honor, pride, and loyalty, until only bone and instinct remain. On one ship adrift near the coast of Hispaniola, the crew's ladder vanished by the second week. By the third, their voices were whispers. By the fourth, silence. One logbook, later found stained with salt and blood, wrote of the moment it happened. A sailor collapsed at the mast, his ribs sharp as knives under his skin, his lips too dry to close. The others gathered, not to help, not to pray, but to stare. One muttered, he's gone. Another corrected, not yet. And when night fell, the whispers sharpened into blades. The next morning, the sailor's hammock was empty, and in the galley, a pot boiled. What floated inside no man dared to describe. Not every ship sank into such horror. But the fear of it, that fear was enough to crack men's minds. Some captains ruled with iron discipline, forcing rations, punishing thieves. Others pretended nothing was wrong, until the crew decided otherwise. A pirate named John Hawkins once wrote, hunger commands mutiny swifter than gold or glory. A starving crew sees no captain, only an obstacle between them and survival. And so betrayals multiplied across the waves. A barrel of bread hidden under the captain's bed. A mutiny before sunrise. A mate accused of sneaking more than his share. Knives drawn, blood spilled. Even brothers turned against each other, because hunger is a weapon sharper than any cutlass. From Wood Creek's waves rise. A storm gathers still. There were moments, rare, fragile moments, where survival bound them closer than gold ever could. Picture it, a sudden squall splits the sky. Rain crashes down like a gift from heaven. Pirates drop their swords, their suspicions, their greed. They rush to the deck, faces lifted, mouths wide open, laughing like children as water runs over their cheeks, washing away rotten despair. For a single hour, there are no betrayals, no curses, just men, drenched, wild, alive. And then the storm passes, the barrels fill, the hunger waits, yet hunger had another cruel ally: paranoia. Sailors began hearing voices in the creak of the ship. Some swore they saw shadows moving across the deck at night. One man claimed the sea itself whispered his name, promising food in exchange for blood. Madness was contagious. One delirious laugh midnight could echo until dawn, infecting the whole crew. A sudden scream in the dark, and blades were drawn even when no enemy stood before them. The sea was not only starving their bellies, it was feasting on their minds, and then came the storms. Not every voyage was plagued by hunger alone. Sometimes the sky itself turned traitor, waves towering like mountains, winds howling like devils. Pirates lashed themselves to the deck, praying not to be torn into the black water below. Those who survived awoke not to relief, but to devastation. Sails ripped to rags, barrels smashed and emptied, and with them what little food remained. Men crawled across the wreckage, licking rainwater from the splintered wood. Others carved leather from torn rigging, chewing until their gums bled. And when nothing remained, only silence. A silence broken by the beating of desperate hearts. A lantern flickers, a heartbeat rises. But listen closely, friend, because if you're still sailing with us through this dark tale, raise your flag and hit that subscribe button. Join the crew of Dead Men Tales, where legends never truly die. Even in survival, legends were born. Some spoke of the ghost ships, derelicts found drifting, sails torn, no men alive. Tables set with food untouched, dice scattered mid-game, as if the crew had vanished into the sea's mouth in a single breath. Others whispered of the cursed voyages, ships where no fish ever bit the line, where rain clouds never formed, where barrels rotted twice as fast. Superstitious pirates swore such vessels were marked by devils, doomed before they even set sail. And yet men kept sailing, because hunger was not just death, it was a teacher. It taught them the worth of every crumb, every drop. It bound them to one another, or tore them apart. Still, the darkest truth was this: the sea does not kill quickly. It waits. It waits for your bones to weaken, for your mind to falter, for your brother to betray you, or your captain to fail you. And when it takes you, it takes everything. Her thunder crashes. Silence follows. That is where we leave the crew adrift, their fates uncertain, their bellies empty, their hearts torn between loyalty and survival. But the sea is not done with them yet. For in the next chapter, the true price of hunger will be paid. A distant thunder fades, a single lantern flickers, the logbooks always end the same way. Ink grows weaker, letters trail into nothing. And then silence. What happened after? Few lived to tell. Some survivors washed ashore, skins stretched thin as parchment, their eyes hollow, their minds broken. They whispered of choices no man should ever face. Of hands gripping a blade, not in battle but over a shipmate's sleeping body. One survivor swore the taste never left his mouth. Another drowned himself a week later, claiming the sea called him home. The true horror was not that men died, it was that some lived, carrying with them the shame of how. And yet there were tales darker still. One Spanish galleon, trapped in the doldrums, drifted for months. When a rescue ship finally reached her, they found not corpses but bones, polished clean, tables neatly set, knives laid out in order, as if a feast had been held, and its guest had vanished. Some swore it was desperation, others whispered it was ritual, a bargain struck between starving men and something far older than the sea. To this day, sailors crossing that stretch of water claim to hear the clatter of bones against silver, carried on the night wind. But hunger was not always the end. Sometimes it forged legends. One captain, faced with the slow death of his crew, made a choice. He gathered every man, and with steady hand slit his own wrist. He commanded, "Live." They obeyed, and for weeks those drops of blood kept them breathing. When they reached land, the survivors built a shrine, not to God, not to the sea, but to the man who gave his body, so his crew might see another sunrise. Waves crash, wind howls, the sea is cruel, but it is also just. It reveals the truth of men, strips away the masks, the lies, the comforts of land. It asks a single question: when the bread is gone, when the water runs dry, when the storm has taken everything, what will you do? Will you share your last crumb with a brother? Or sharpen your knife in the dark? Will you cling to loyalty even as your belly gnaws itself to dust? Or betray the very hands that once hauled you from the waves? And so across centuries the tales of hunger at sea linger. They are not written in gold nor carved in stone. They are carved into the bones of men, into the echoes of their screams, into the silence of ships found adrift, forever waiting for a meal that never lantern extinguishes. Only the sea remains. Remember how we began, with men vanishing, their names swallowed by the waves. That is hunger's final gift. It does not merely kill the body, it erases the story. It leaves nothing but whispers, drifting like smoke across the water. And if you listen, on some nights, when the wind is sharp and the waves are cruel, you may still hear them, the voices of the starving dead, calling from the Black Sea, asking what you would have done.